Hello and welcome back to Broken Arrow Beads. Today I'd like to show you how to do brick stitch. Now for this example, there's two techniques or two stitches that I'll be using for this one pattern that I'm doing. Now I have the pattern in my mind already because it's one that I've done before and it's relatively easy. So if you want to follow along, that'll be just great. That'll be good. So today the base of this earring is going to be 7 beads wide, and I'm going to grab 2 red beads. I'm using Delicas size 11 and 3 orange and 2 red. So for this first row, what I'm going to do is just put my beads on and create the base. Now when you're doing the base of the beads, you want to be weaving in and out of the beads. I'll show you. So for the first row, I'm going to just go through this bead here, and if you can see that, just going to go through the first bead like that, and what that's going to do is it's going to make the beads lie against each other. I mean, they're against each other now, but I want them to be like that. Now I'm going to do the same thing, repeat that. See where the thread is coming out of? What I want to do is go around and up to this side of the orange bead and just go through the orange bead. And you can see the beads are already starting to fall into place. So I'm going to repeat that till I get to the end, and I'll just keep going here so that you could see what's happening. See how the beads are just starting to lock into place? That's perfect. And just keep going until I get to the last bead. Now I waxed my thread before I started this little project, and what I find when I'm waxing the thread, it helps to keep it from twisting up. And I'm going to go through the last one here. And you should have a nice neat little row of beads. They don't if they're not all perfectly straight, that's fine, because once you get going in the pattern, they'll start to lock into place. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now that we have our row of beads, so I want the beads to be lying up and down like this instead of just strung, because this is the base. Okay, so for the next row, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab 1 red and 1 orange. Now the reason why I'm just doing this is because I'm just creating the base of the earring, and I'm going to go through the red this, skip that one and go into that red one there. Okay, so what I've done is I've added 2 beads on, this red and this orange bead, and where my string was coming out of, I just picked them up, put them on, and went through the second one. So now I'm going to go back up through this orange one, through the 3rd bead, pull that through, and grab another orange bead, and just go through So now what I'm going to do is just grab another orange bead and just go through, back through this orange bead, and then come up through the orange bead that I just added. And pull on the string a little bit. So that's starting the 2nd row. Now I'm going to grab a yellow bead, go through the middle orange bead of the 1st row, come up through that bead there, grab an orange bead and go back through the yellow. So I'm just creating loops for this first section. I'm going to go back up through the orange bead, I'm kind of just tugging every once in a while at my work just to make sure that the beads, because it just helps the beads to lie in place where I want them to be. Now I'm going to grab another orange bead and go through this red one, and then I'm just going to turn my work because it helps me to hang on to it a little bit better, and go up through this red bead here. Doesn't change the direction of the pattern at all, and I'm going to grab one red bead, go through the top of this orange bead here, and go through the bottom of the red that I just added. Try not to go through the thread because it weakens it. There we go. And that's the 2 rows. Now I want to create one more row just like that. So I'm going to grab an orange bead, 2 orange beads, and for this I'm not going to go through both of these. I'm just going to go through the orange bead, and there we go. Pull that through and come up through this, the 3rd orange bead of the 2nd row, and just repeat that process until I get to the end of the row. So I'm going to have a yellow, go through this top of the orange bead, and see where am I at. Oh, Sometimes the thread doesn't want to let you do what you want it to do. Then go back up through the yellow. And just pull on that a little bit to pull all the beads together. So for this part, it's kind of important to try and keep the thread tight so that the beads can be held close together. There we go. So I'm just working the thread to make the rows a little tighter. And that's okay. If this is your first time beading or trying this, that's okay. You can, over time you'll find you'll get the feel of the work and the tightness of the string, and the more you do it, the easier it'll become. So that's yellow, so I want a red one in here. So I just grabbed one red one, and I'm gonna go through this yellow one here. And just keep repeating what I did in the first row. Come up through this bead, pull it a little bit tight, and grab a yellow one and go through the top of the red one. And come back up through the yellow. Sometimes it just helps to turn your work a little bit to hang on to it. Pull it a little bit tight. And I'm going to grab a orange one. Go through that one there. Come up through this red one. And grab one more orange one. Go through this orange one. And come up through the orange, the one that you just put on. So now what you're going to see is I've got my base. Now I'm going to start getting into the brick stitch portion of my earring. Now the reason why I did the base is because this helps create the pattern that I want with the dangles or the fringes. So now whenever you're doing the brick stitch, with the brick stitch, what you're doing is you're coming up underneath the strings. You're not going through the beads at this time. So for the first row, every time you do a row, when you start a new row, you pick up 2 beads. So for this section here, I'm going to grab an orange bead and a yellow bead, because that's going to flow with my pattern. Now, I don't want to go through this first underneath this string. I'm going to go underneath the second one. And just take my needle. See how I'm going underneath the string? That's how you want to do that. And you're going to pull it. And I'm not going to go back around through this orange bead. I'm going to go back up through the yellow. Just like this. And I'm not going to for this first row, I'm not going to pull on it really tight. Just give it a gentle tug, and as you go along the row, you're going to see the beads start to form the brick. So now the next color I want is a red. So now I'm just going to grab one bead at a time. So I'm going to go up, go underneath this string with my needle, pull it through, and then go up underneath the bead, just like that. Pull it, give it a nice little tug, and over the course of this row, you're going to see the beads click into place. This bead, you notice, is a little sticking up. That's fine, because when you add more rows, it'll start to lie a little bit more straighter. So now I'm going to grab another red bead and go under the string, pull it through, and go up. And I'm going to repeat that. So I'm going to grab a yellow, and grab one orange. Just turn my work. Sometimes it helps just to rotate it, just to get up through the beads. Okay, so that's the first row of the brick stitch. You can see the beads, how nice and neat they lie. So now you can see how they're starting to form. Okay, so now I'm going to carry on, and I'm going to grab a yellow. Now this is the beginning of the next row. So I need two beads. I'm going to grab a yellow and a red. And I'm going to not go through that one. I'm going to go through the second string underneath it. And I can already feel the thread just be nice and tight as I'm going. And I'm not doing too much. Oops. I want to go underneath this red bead. Yep. And I'm going to grab an orange one. Red. And a yellow. See, that one's okay, because remember the first one was kind of sticking up like that? And see how when you start adding the next rows, they start to click into place? And a yellow. And just turn my work. And there we go. I can see it starting to take shape. I'm going to carry on here. I'm going to keep going. You can follow along if you like. This one I need a yellow and a red. So the beginning of the row, any row, always pick up 2 and go through the second string. And then you go up under the second bead. Grab another red one. Another yellow one. And I'm gonna grab a yellow and a red one. And the beginning of the next row, I'm going to go up through this red, the second thread, and go through this up underneath the red bead. And grab a yellow. Now I'm going to grab a yellow, 2 yellow, and so I only have 2 threads left, so always go, when you're beginning the row, always go through the second thread. So this is the last row before I get up to my last 2, well, I'm at my last 2 beads now. So now this is where I'm going to create the section of 6 beads so that I can hang the earrings from. So I'm going to grab 4 the earring hooks from. So I grab 4 beads, and I'm just going to go back through this bead here, pull that through, and what's going to happen is this is going to create a place where I can put my fish hook earrings through. I'm going to go through a couple of times because I want just to reinforce this area and to make it strong enough for the hook to hang on to. Now these are Delica size 11 beads, and they're a matte color. Okay, so now I've gone through a couple of times. I'm going to go through, pull my needle and thread through that side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through down this side of beads all the way till I get to the tail. Now when I do this, I'm not going to pull on it super tight, because if you pull on it tight, it's going to warp, create a kind of like a bend in the beads, a bend in the pattern. So I'm just pulling it through, putting the needle through, and just gently pulling on it. And that's beginning to come together. So now I'm going to add the fringes on. And for the fringes, I'd like to lay my work down on my beading mat here. Pull the tail out, and for the first row, now in keeping with the pattern that I got going here, I'm going to grab underneath the 2 red, I'm going to use black. So I've strung on a total of, so on here this is my pattern, so this is going to be the 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 10 11 12 13 14 15 16. So I put on 16. So the first two beads that I picked up are going to be at the bottom of the red, and then these 3 black beads are going to be the bottom of the fringe. So I'm just going to pull them up, and that's how that's going to look. Now I like to keep my work on flat, and I'm just going to take my thread. Now I skipped the 3 black beads, and I'm going to take my thread and needle and just go straight up through the fringe here. Now I'm going to go up through this red bead, through both of these red beads. Now the reason why I picked these two is because it just helps to reinforce the, just gives it a, it's more sturdier than just going through the first row. I'll pull that through, and I'm going to tug on the thread, but not too tight, because remember the thread goes all the way from up here all the way down. So I don't want my pattern to have that warp in it. Now that's the first fringe. I'm going to go back down here through the orange and the red of the second column, pull my needle through, and pick up the next fringe, the next beads for the next fringe. Just kind of negotiate with the thread to help with the fringe to lie nice and flat, nice and so it's not all wonky. There we go. Okay, I got my second fringe, and I'm increasing by 2, so I got 5 yellow here, picked up 5 yellow. So I'm going to skip these 3 and just go straight back up the fringe, straight back up to where I pulled the thread and needle through, and that's what you're going to do. So pull, gently pull it, and see how the fringe is going to dangle. So there we go. Now I'm going to repeat that all the way till I get to the end. I'll show you what to do with that tail after. Okay, so I got my third fringe, and I'm going to come up through, skip the black beads, come up through there, and go through the 2 orange ones. Pull that through, and then come through this orange and yellow, come back down through the orange and yellow. Okay, so now I got my middle fringe on, and I have 9 yellow. So now I'm going to go back up through the fringe, through each of the beads, Okay, now I'm going to go back through this orange one, these two orange ones, and now we're starting to reduce the count. So all I did was I just rotated my work. So I'm going to skip the black ones and go through all the beads, go back up the fringe, and go back up through these two orange beads. And just gently pull on it. Sorry, I keep forgetting. Okay, I'm going to go back up, back through these two, the orange and the red, and just pull it through. Now I'm not pulling on it tight because I want my dangles to be loose and to lay nice. If you pull the thread too tight, the dangles will be stiff and they'll stick out in all different directions. The second last fringe, and now what I'm going to do is skip the three bottom and go all the way up through the beads, making sure that I go through each one and go up through the bottom too. And just kind of gently tug on that. And now I'm going to go on my last column here, go through those two red ones and pick up the beads for the last fringe. Okay, now I have the beads for the last fringe on, and I'm going to go up through those, back up through the fringe, and just making sure that I'm going through all the beads with my thread and needle, and just pull that through. Now to finish this, what I'm going to do is just take my needle and thread and just weave it through each of the beads, a few at a time, a couple, however you want to do it. There's no set method on how you want to finish it off. Just remember that it's important to weave it through a few times so that when you cut it, when you cut the thread, it won't unravel. Now I'm just going to go back up this one here. So what helps me to figure out how many times I go through is when I notice that the needle and thread are starting to be a little bit tough to get through. I don't want to force it through, but what I want to do is at that point consider cutting it off. And I'm going to do that now. So all I do is, for this part, is take my needle, scissors I should say, and make sure your scissors are nice and sharp, and just snip that off, just right there. And then the tail, the end usually just disappears. Now for this tail, what I'm going to do is rethread it. And all I'm going to do is take the thread and go down the fringe here, making sure I go through all of the beads till I get to the bottom, just of the yellow. Yeah. Pull it not too tight and remove my needle, and then just carefully that I don't cut the fringe off. That's why I like to keep my work flat. And snip that off. And there you have it. That's earrings with Miyuki Delica Beads size 11. And this is seed beads, just regular seed beads size 10 and 0. So if you could see the difference, the seed bead size 10 and 0 seem to be a little bit larger than the Delicas size 11. But it's still beautiful. So this is the first earring that I did with the size 10 and 0 beads, regular seed beads. And this is the second earring I did with the Delicas size 11 and 0. And thank you for watching, and thank you for liking my videos and subscribing.